Rockwell, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here, Ayush. Good to see you.
So, can you take us through the history of money?
Money in the context of crypto, you're interested in. Because we could talk about, money in many perspectives, but I think oftentimes when you're thinking about money in the context of why it matters in crypto, the first question people ask is, well, Bitcoin can't really be money, right? Because you can't go into Starbucks and pay with a coffee with Bitcoin. And, you know, the thing to point out is that, well, you can't walk into a coffee shop and pay a bag of gold or Apple stock either, right? But those are both forms of money. And so when you think about what money is, the technical definition is money is a medium of exchange. Well, what is medium of exchange? Medium of exchange just means trade. So if you want something that I have and you want to buy it from me, how are you going to do it? You need to offer me something. And so money is the thing that you can offer me so that I give you the good or service that you want. Now, it's easy to get stuck in the now at the moment of, oh, well, uh, we have these green dollar bills, like we use those as money. That's what money is. But I assure you, I mean, somebody out there, if you're holding a bag of gold, somebody will trade you a cup of coffee for a bag of gold, right? There's a market for that. And so when you think historically, at every time, like what is considered money is whatever we agree on. Whatever two parties agree on as money is what money is. At one time, it was, whale teeth and squirrels and barley, right? Uh, if you really want to read a good book on money, there's one called The Ascent of Money by Niall Ferguson. He'll give you kind of a very good perspective of money. The explain like I'm five version of that, the kind of condensed version is ages ago, we used to use things like whale teeth and barley as money. And then people woke up and were like, well, I don't really want whale teeth. So let's use something else. And so we started using precious metals like silver and gold. And, yeah, like kings really loved that because they could put their faces on coins, right? And of course, like vanity. But it's like, oh, everybody like they're walking around with these bags of silver and gold. They get back pain. It's like very laborsome. People can easily steal it from you. And so governments figure out like, okay, let's not trade in precious metals. Let's just use notes that represent the precious metals that are sitting somewhere in some vault or some secret storage facility. And then eventually governments realize, well, wait a second. Actually, we don't need to back anything with the paper money other than our authority. And so, we call this fiat money, and then we could just use this as like the full faith and trust of our authority that that this will be accepted. That has kind of been the like the rough history, like the quick explain like I'm five condensed history of money. And when you think about how important it is, this power that you have to create or destroy money, it has generally been reserved for monarchs or governments or extremely powerful entities. There's an interesting question. What happens if you decouple the ability to create money from these institutions? What what world opens up? And that's some of the interesting part of crypto is this separation of money and state and all the things that like we saw what happens when you separate church from state, right? We've seen in many other industries what happens when you remove the gatekeepers. So we saw, for example, in the media industry, when anybody can tell a story, not just Channel 5 News or the New York Times or the Time Magazine, what are the kinds of stories that get told? Uh, when all of a sudden anybody could upload a video on YouTube and they could broadcast to the world, or they could send a tweet, or they could update a post on Instagram or Facebook. We've all seen what happens when you remove the gatekeepers, when you decouple the thing from the institutions. Oh yeah, fireworks. That's what happens. Fireworks happens. that's what I think is really interesting is like, okay, well, now what happens when you decouple money from the
Mhm.
institution? And there's and like plenty of ways we could talk about where it goes.
Sure. No, that's a great starting point. You've really cemented that foundation. So we have these, artifacts in history, and we try to find scarcity within those artifacts. Before, maybe it was seashells, then we got to precious metals. Gold was the most scarce precious metal. Gold was money for a very long time. Then we need to figure out durability and how to transport it better. And so they created these paper backed or gold backed paper notes. And then they just took the gold out of the equation and backed the notes, right, with their authority. And so one of the cool things about cryptocurrency, cool and complex things, is that you need to understand the history of money, but you also need a very thorough understanding of how cryptocurrency works technologically. And so
Hmm.
right now, we've come to a point where the blockchain is integral to that scarcity. So what is a blockchain? Is it necessary for cryptocurrency? And why is it necessary for this revolution in finance of restoring sovereignty?
I think you
Hmm.
first have to understand what a blockchain is, because I think for a lot of folks, it's a term that gets flung around. People don't understand it very well. It's kind of mysterious in some ways. It's just like this blob, but it's very easy to understand. So if you've ever seen the ledger for a business, like in the old school version of a ledger, it was a book. In the book, you would record transactions. So somebody would come in, they'd be like, "Cool, like I want to buy five of your chickens," right? So you would record, okay, I sold so and so five chickens for this amount of money, right? And you would just keep writing transactions in your ledger. Now, this ledger is very centralized. It's like you have the ledger, okay? So you could do whatever you want. You could write in there completely fake transactions that never happened. And for some businesses that are trying to money launder stuff, that they do stuff like that, right? And so the the a kind of ultimate question is like, okay, well, how do you ensure that a ledger is not tampered with? How do you ensure that what's actually written in the ledger is true? How do you ensure that the trades that you're saying actually happened? And so, one of the things that I think is hard for people to wrap their heads around, because they're so engrossed in this idea of like, hey, the current system works really well. It's like, well, what are the problems? But if you just peek under the hood of how transactions happen in the economy today, you'll see all sorts of inefficiencies, credit card chargebacks, tons of fraud going around, people faking all sorts of crazy transactions, or committing all sorts of fraudulent activity. And so the underlying systems that we're using to power economic activity, to power kind of our economic ledger, are not as sophisticated as you would hope. And there's a lot of ways to tamper with them. And so it's like, okay, well, how do you create a better, more foolproof system? How do you create some kind of economic truth? How do you create a digital ledger that can't be easily manipulated? And that's where blockchains come in. So, uh, and the name is actually even illustrative of what we're talking about. So, what a block actually is in this context is just a list of transactions. And when you create a list of transactions and you call it a block, when you create the next block, you point to the previous block, and you're literally creating a chain of transactions together, which is a block chain. All a blockchain is just a digital list of transactions. That's it. What makes a blockchain interesting is that it has particular properties that are really attractive. And one of those properties is that it's very hard to tamper with it because of the way that it's actually structured and set up. And so in many blockchains, they have this superpower of being decentralized, which means there's no single point of failure. And so it's very, very hard to attack it and change the list of transactions. So if you really did come and buy 5 chickens from me, great. It's like that's recorded, that's there forever. Nobody can say you bought 7 chickens or 3 chickens. Like that's what it is. And you might think it's like, okay, but why is that such a big deal? And it's really hard to describe to somebody how powerful it is to actually own something until it's taken away from you. And so, I'll give you some examples of this. In the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, Greece was in so much trouble, they actually started taking uh, money out of people's private accounts, private bank accounts. Right? And so you thought you owned your money in your bank account, but you didn't. The government could just unilaterally choose to say, like, actually, no, we're going to tax you on that money and take it. Or if you ever owned a property that got eminent domained by the government, where it's like, oh, you thought you owned this property, and the government said, oh no, you don't actually own this property. We can take it from you. And maybe in some countries we'll give you fair market value for it, but not always. Sometimes they'll just take it from you. Right? You only own something in as much as there isn't somebody more powerful than you that wants to take it away from you. And that's the thing that people have a really hard time wrapping their heads around because it hasn't happened to them yet. They have never personally experienced what it's like to believe you own something and then for it to be taken away from you. And one of the promises of the blockchain is this idea of self-custody, that you can actually own the things that are yours and that they cannot be forcibly taken away from you. And there are some really interesting contexts in which that's relevant and that matters a lot. And so ultimately, these blockchains have some interesting superpowers about them, but what they actually are decentralized transaction ledgers that just record the transactions that are happening. And because they have really good tamper resistance, you can create these kind of production systems on top of them to say, hey, this is the economic truth. These are the transactions that are happening. This is who owns what, and ultimately nobody can really mess.
Yeah, I think people are relatively unfamiliar with this idea of economic truth. I think that when we talk about specifically cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin, when we think about being decentralized and this new term of being trustless, it's like what does that mean? I was talking with a friend and I was explaining blockchain, and she was saying, well, if everybody has a blockchain, then doesn't everybody have my Bitcoin? And I was like, no, no, it doesn't work like that, right? Because there's so many moving parts. And I guess just going on a tangent, how do we decouple the complexity of cryptocurrency and of understanding cryptocurrency with using cryptocurrency on a day-to-day basis? It feels like you have to understand how the blockchain works. You have to understand how proof of work and proof of stake works. You have to understand what a public and a private key is, how that relates to your wallet. You have to understand like settlement
It's only
times.
it's only because you're early, right?
Okay,
And so,
interesting.
you know, in the early ages of the internet, you had to kind of know
Mm.
a lot of things. Like, all right, I'm going to use a dial-up modem to dial into this like bulletin board. I'd have to know how to use these things. Like, I'd probably have to be more on the technical side. Today, if you want to send an email, you have no idea how email works. Like
Mm.
most people have no concept of how email works. If you want to sign up for Instagram, most people have no concept of how Instagram's technological infrastructure works. Right now, in the phase we are in crypto, is because we're so early. Um, you know, it's easy to get lost in all of these details before they get abstracted out. There will come a day when nobody ever talks about proof of work or proof of stake or consensus algorithms or any of this stuff. It's like they won't even think about it. They'll just use their applications and be happy with it.
Mhm. I mean, I'm waiting for that world. I'm sure a lot of other people are because no, seriously, because when
Yeah.
you explain these concepts about cryptocurrency to people and they get it, it's kind of like, there's a hard fork in their understanding in a literal way because they don't look back on current monetary systems with any sort of passion or want. As soon as you explain Bitcoin's properties, just as an example, cryptocurrency or crypto property, if you're Michael Saylor, then you immediately just want to go into that world where the Bitcoin standard is real. And so I guess right now we're pivoting slightly to Web3, if we could say that. So before we get into what a Web3 world could look like, how should we differentiate between Web2 and Web3? Or I guess before that, what is Web2 and what is Web3?
Well, there's a lot of ways to think about this. I think one thing you first have to understand is what crypto actually is. And people really, they truly misunderstand what crypto is. Crypto at its core is programmable incentives. And what that actually means when you unpack it is that you want some outcome to exist in the world. You now have an infrastructure to try to program that outcome to exist, full stop. So, for example, um, if you want there to be a uh, decentralized store of value, you can say, okay, if you help secure this network that's this decentralized store of value, I will reward you by paying you in Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin will have value if the underlying activity has value. So like people really care for there being a decentralized store of value, then the Bitcoin will have value. If, for example, instead you want there to be decentralized forever storage, where you could like store a file decentralized forever, you could say, okay, if you come and run a node in this network and store files, we're going to reward you in Arweave. Great. Uh, if you want there to be a Google Maps competitor, where it's like, all right, if you put your dash cam or like your phone on your dash and like record your environment around you, we're going to pay you some Hive Mapper token for every mile that you map. Fantastic. Now, why does this matter? Well, it matters because in the old world, if you wanted to create a Google Maps competitor, you would need tons of money, right? Like you would need an incredible amount of money to pay all the drivers to go around, to map the world, to accumulate all of this data. But here we're saying, no, you don't need all of that money. You just need to program an infrastructure that gives people a token for the activity that they're doing. And if that activity, that underlying activity has value, then that token will have value. It's a completely different, it's a fundamentally different way to operate and do business. And it's really powerful because it means that the startup costs can be so much lower to try to program the outcomes that you're looking to achieve in the world. And those outcomes could be incredibly varied. I gave you three examples. There's many, many more examples of basically saying, hey, I'm going to incentivize your behavior through giving you a token for performing an activity. And that, again, that token will have value if that underlying activity is meaningful in the world and like the market values it. So out of that comes this saying that in Web 2, money buys distribution. Like you go raise a bunch of money from venture capitalists or investors, you amass your war chest, and then this will help buy distribution for whatever product or service that you're pitching. In Web 3, or in crypto generally, money is distribution. Money is distribution because you have the ability to create money. You can actually use it as the distribution mechanism because they, hey, cool, I'm creating this money if you do this thing. And that is the distribution. People get excited about it. They're like, oh, yeah, like this activity is going to be worthwhile. I'll go do the activity. You saw it with Bitcoin, right? If you go and run a node on the network and you help secure the network, you put up the computation, you'll get some Bitcoin. And for the people that saw the potential, or even the people that were interested in speculating, they went and did that, and they were rewarded. And ultimately, the market spoke and was like, yes, actually, it's really powerful to have a decentralized store of value. So, you know, if you understand that crypto is programmable incentives, it's not just money, right?
Mm.
It's and this is the thing that people get so caught up on. It's not that crypto is trying to replace the US dollar. Like that's not the framework you should have in your mind. Crypto is a way to manifest outcomes in the world that is fundamentally different and in many ways more powerful than the infrastructure that came before it. And it doesn't necessarily need to replace everything, but it is in the same way that the internet augmented the world in very meaningful, interesting ways. It didn't replace everything. Like I can still go outside, I can still go to retail stores, I can still go to malls, I can still do many things that existed before the internet. With crypto, it's much the same way. A lot of this stuff that came before crypto is still going to exist and be meaningful. But crypto gives us these new avenues to build products, experiences that are meaningful, important, impactful, and are accessible in ways that don't require mountains of venture capital or mountains of investors' money to go build the next interesting thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just a lot to process because it's a massive reorientation because whenever people talk about cryptocurrency, it's always let's do away with all fiat and let's just move to a Bitcoin standard or to an Ethereum standard or to a Cardano standard or
Right.
whatever. And thinking about, cryptocurrencies collapsing the distance between wanting an outcome in the world and actually generating that outcome in the world is is a delicious thought, but it's a big on ramp for at least me to to deal with. But it's an important on ramp, I think, for Gen Z and Gen Alpha who are coming into a world where they want to change it very quickly, and I think they're coming into a very complex, society and culture where they don't have a lot of time and their understandings are very different, and so they need to generate those different outcomes in a very quick and aggressive way. So just I guess on that
Mm.
topic, if you're in school right now, you're in high school or post-secondary, how should you think about cryptocurrency and how should you take advantage of this current situation?
Hmm. My recommendation is always to have a bias towards action. So if you care about this industry, its ideals, what it's trying to do, get involved. Go on
Mm.
Discords, go on Telegrams, uh, go read DAO forums. Start getting, just take a bias towards action. Like get moving, get acting. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to do things that are learning experiences. All that's fine, but you got to go take action because if you just sit there and let it pass you by, that's what it does. It just passes you by. You never get involved. Nothing meaningful happens. And it's through the bias of taking action that the random encounters happen. That and there's so many random things that happen that end up being very consequential for you in your life. And the more that you can increase the random walk encounters that you have and increase your surface area for luck based on that, the better chance you have of something interesting like coming out of it. And so my best advice is just have a bias towards action. Like take action, feel comfortable taking action, build the muscle and the habit of taking action because that's going to be more impactful than almost anything.
Do you need a post-secondary degree to get into crypto?
No. No.
No. That's a good answer.
No.
That's a good answer. Um, no, I'm glad that was the reaction. Just because, I feel like a lot of Gen Z and Gen Alpha are neglecting post-secondary and they just want to do their own thing. So at least if there is a healthy way for them to make an impact, crypto could be that. Um, how did you get into this, by the way? What's your background?
That's an interesting question. So, a lifetime ago, I ran a medical software company called For Patient Care. Grew that, scaled it. It was acquired by Essilor. After that, I spent the last 8 years of my life in the consumer wellness industry, making successful apps on the App Store and Google Play to help people sleep, beat their anxiety, depression, chronic pain, a lot of mental wellness topics. Um, More recently, I have become the CEO of a company called Ozlo that makes these really cool Sleepbuds. So they're
Interesting.
wireless earbuds for sleep. Uh, so a lot of my career has been outside of crypto, but a good portion of it has also been inside of crypto. And so, I've kind of bought Bitcoin and Ethereum for a while. Uh, the In 2021, I was like early 2021, a buddy reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, you really got to get involved with uh, the uh, DeFi summer that's happening." So like there was this there's this big DeFi summer in like summer of 2020. It spilled over into 2021. It spilled over into this like massive bull run that happened basically all asset classes in 2021, but especially in crypto. And so I started getting involved more thoroughly with some DeFi projects. Eventually, I started a blockchain gaming guild. We scaled that from zero to over 2,400 players in 6 months. It was crazy. It was a really wild time. We also, at that time, launched a DeFi protocol that raised about $2 million dollars in 72 hours. That was um, you could think about it as a reserve currency for gaming assets. So the idea being like you could issue money, like digital money, against gaming assets that this entity held, and it was a very interesting concept idea. Unfortunately, the 2022 happened, the whole market tanked. It's like gaming assets went down 99%, so a lot of it lost value. But we also during 2021 started uh, a Web3 school called Invisible College, where people could actually learn and onboard into Web3. So we launched an NFT collection out of that. The NFTs gave you access to all the courses, the curriculum, the content. Um, so we sold a bunch of NFTs. The school is still operational. It's at invisiblecollege.xyz. It's kind of like decentralized at this point. People can just like go get the NFT, access the courses, do the whole thing. Um, so that was a lot of my involvement in the crypto world. Uh, and it's just like all of that was an interesting breeding ground for the project that I'm working on at the moment. It's kind of like my side passion project called BitNote. And you can find it at bitnote.xyz. But ultimately, it's this problem that I'm obsessed with, which is where do you store secret information? So, like the kind of traditional advice in crypto is, oh, like etch your secrets into steel, put it in a fireproof safe, in a secret place in your house, bolt it to the ground where only you know the code. It's like, yeah, man, that's great if you're Batman. But like if you're just a normal person,
Yeah.
that's not very good advice. And so, people turn to these centralized password managers like LastPass or 1Password. And the truth of that is like, okay, well, those companies could go out of business, right? They have pricey subscriptions, not great. They're not open source, so you actually never know what's happening with your data, which leads to, for example, LastPass has gotten hacked half a dozen times in the last 4 years. So it's really, when you're talking about storing your secrets safely, putting them in a place where you actually don't know how the data is held and stored and secured is not great. And so, a lot of people use open source password managers like Bitwarden, but they don't realize that like Bitwarden is opinionated about what VPN you use. So if you use the wrong VPN, they won't let you access your data. Or, and this is a big one, um, people don't realize that if your email gets hacked, somebody could delete your whole Bitwarden vault, even if they don't have your master password for your Bitwarden account. And so like all your secrets could just like poof, be gone all of a sudden. Right. So then the question is like, okay, like where do you actually store secret information? Like if you want to self-custody secrets, you can't put them in your Apple or Google accounts. Like your Google account could get banned. Like there's all these horror stories of people who like they wrote the wrong comment on YouTube. All of a sudden they can't access their Gmail or their Google Drive, right? There's even a story the other day of a woman who got locked out of her Apple account because a hacker tried to enter her account so many times, failed, and it just completely locked everybody out of the account. And so if you're talking about mission critical secrets that you have to have access to, whether that's in a personal setting or in a corporate setting, where do you put this data? And, it's like, oh, maybe you're sophisticated enough to run your own home server or something. But it's like, okay, do you want the maintenance of that? You still have to secure that. There's all sorts of headaches that come along with that. It's like, it's just this weird ultimate problem that it's like there's not a really good place where if you need the guarantees that it's decentralized, it's permissionless, it's censorship resistant, it's private, it's permanent storage, it's easily accessible. Like there's no system of storing secrets that can guarantee you those things that exist today. And especially if you are like, let's say you are in crypto and you have significant asset and you have a crypto seed phrase or a crypto private key, where do you store that? Because whoever has access to that seed phrase or private key has access to all the funds. And there was not a really good answer to this question, right? So there's basically no good answer to this question. And so we're like, all right, well, we'll just build it, right? Like it doesn't exist. Like, let's go build it. We need it ourselves. At the worst, at least we'll have a customer of one. Like,
Right.
well, we at least know there'll be one user for the product.
No, I mean, just hearing you talk about this, it seems like cryptocurrency doesn't really matter so much as the concepts that it instills in people. Like, I feel like before cryptocurrency, people didn't really think about decentralization or trustlessness, and now they do. And now they want to apply it to everything.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, again, going back to what you were saying of crypto doesn't necessarily need to displace the dollar, as an example. And it feels like a lot of the things that crypto is um, like a lot of the babies that crypto is having in all of these other spaces can coexist with these legacy applications.
Yeah.
So why are people so afraid of this revelation in cryptocurrency? We'll say cryptocurrency and its ideals. Why are people so worried that we'll just stop transacting in fiat, which is a possibility? I think that we're going to have like dual economies where one is in fiat, the other is Web3. I know you don't like that term, so we'll just say crypto. But why is everybody over the age of 45 to 50 just like crypto is a scam, it's useless, and it's never going to be anything?
I mean, this happens with every technological revolution. Uh,
Does
the
it
same
though?
thing was said, yeah, the internet. I mean, if you were old enough to see the rise of the internet, you would have heard the same curmudgeons talking about the internet, saying it was a scam, it was stupid, it was a fad. There's literally newspaper headlines that you can pull up that say basically as much. And it was only reinforced in the 99 or the 2000 dot-com bubble burst. So in 2000, there was all these high flying internet companies. They raised tons of money at crazy valuations. They didn't have real business models and they all blew up, or a lot of them blew up. And so you saw this huge stock market crash. Everybody was like, lots of people lost tremendous amounts of money, and everybody thought the internet was over. And they were like, what a scam it was, you know. And there's plenty of even websites. Quite funny because uh, there were internet websites that would catalog all of the stories of all these companies going out of business and how horrible it was and how terrible they were and they're just awful people doing awful things. And it's very funny because the same thing happens in crypto, where there are websites where people are talking about, it's like, oh, how terrible crypto is, or how terrible these projects are, and how much of a scam they are. And it's like, history repeats itself constantly. With every new technological wave, the old guard gets very upset about it. They're like, this is a scam, this is stupid. It just, I mean, it has happened for ages and ages. It will continue to happen after crypto. This is nothing unique. Now, to be clear, it's not like everything that's come out of crypto is rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. Like every other technological leap, there's plenty of things that are not okay with crypto. Like, just like there's things not okay with previous technological leaps. Like, I still get phone calls where people are trying to scam me with some like expired car warranty that I've never bought before. I still get emails from like Nigerian princes who are trying to tell me like they need $5,000 to unlock 40 million.
Those are
There's
scams.
scams every yeah. there's
I always send them the
there's
money.
scams. I
Sorry, sorry,
Did
go
you
ahead.
ever get the 40 million? Did you ever get the 40 million?
I'm waiting on it, but sorry, please go
No
ahead.
way. So look, it's technology can be used for good, it can be used for bad. You can take a knife, you can cook with it, or you can stab the person next to you, right? It's like it's your choice what you do with the tool. And crypto is a really powerful infrastructure that can do things that are amazing and can do things that are horrible. And it's like ultimately our choice how we use the tool.
Yeah. I mean, we're closing out that section on crypto. It's really important for people to hear because again, I think we're coming off of this FTX collapse, the Terra Luna collapse. People have lost so much money. And, even for the young folks that I talk to that weren't invested before, but were kind of like looking in, from the outside looking in, trying to see whether they should put their money into Bitcoin and Ethereum. That entire like summer fiasco just totally turned them off to any idea of crypto. So just hearing you say that, I mean, it's good to have that optimism because a lot of people, once they see all of these events and see people like Sam Bankman-Fried and the entire ruckus around him, just the circus that happened, they don't want to do their due diligence and invest time, energy, and a little bit of money into understanding that crypto is not just like this small thing about money, that it represents all of these other things. But stepping away from crypto, what first principles do you
Yeah,
use? Yep.
before we completely step
Sure.
away, it is unfair to think that Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos represents the startup world,
Mm.
or Adam Newman of WeWork represents the startup world, or Bernie Madoff represents the finance world,
Mhm.
or Enron represents the corporate. All of these were big fiascos. They were horrible situations. A lot of people lost a bunch of money. But just because there are bad people doing bad things with infrastructure doesn't mean that industry is bad. And so in the case of someone like Sam Bankman-Fried or the folks over at Luna and everything that happened there, um, it's very funny that the further away that you got from the principles of crypto, like the ideas of decentralization, permissionlessness, censorship resistant, like FTX embodied none of these things. Sam Bankman-Fried embodied none of these things. Sam Bankman-Fried embodied, hey, like, uh, ex Jane Street trader decides to come to crypto and make a scam honeypot to drain people of money. And that is the antithesis of everything that actual crypto philosophies stand on. And so it is, the comedy of it all, that it's like the people that are really interested in crypto that preach the basic core tenets and these philosophies, like they get proven right over and over and over again. It's like if you don't control your assets, you don't control your assets, not your keys, not your coin,
Mhm.
right? If you trust centralized entities, they're going to keep disappointing you over and over again. Right? if you allow people to if you allow people to control whether or not you have access, they will abuse that privilege, right? If you allow people to censor you, they will abuse that privilege. It's just like over and over again, we keep learning these same lessons, and that's I just have to call it out because these people that do really bad things, they're so outside of actual what crypto actually stands for. And so they're like Wall Street people that are taking the crypto rails and like building really bad things, and then crypto gets blamed for it.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, if you just actually believed in its core tenets, you would not subscribe to a Celsius or a Voyager or an FTX or a Terra Luna or any of this stuff because it's like it's literally the antithesis of everything that was being built in crypto.
So then is the on-ramp to a crypto world understanding the fundamentals and not no?
No, I think the on ramp to a crypto world is it's like this stuff gets flushed out.
Mm,
Like the bullshit gets flushed out over time. And so there's only so long that you can last when the infrastructure you're building is on a house of cards.
mm,
And so there's only so long you can last running a Ponzi scheme. Like Bernie Madoff was eventually going to be figured out. In his case, it took a lot longer than I think people expected. But it's like if you're creating a scam, there's generally speaking only so long before you'll be found out and flushed out. And so as time progresses, naturally the ecosystem becomes more robust, the applications become more robust, the stuff that is nonsense like falls off by the wayside, and the stuff that is actually real stands out. It's like Bitcoin is very real. Bitcoin is not a scam. It keeps lasting. It keeps lasting out all of these other systems, all of these other blockchains, all of these other things that are being built. And so the proof is in the pudding over time of what is real and what is not real. Now, I think the interesting question is if you want to meaningfully participate in the ecosystem today with where it is in the stage of infrastructure that it is, do you need to understand what you're doing? Yes, you need
mm.
to understand what you're doing. And if you don't understand what you're doing and you want to participate, then just go buy Bitcoin and just sit on it and wait.
Well,
Like that's the best recommendation you can give someone who doesn't actually want to do anything other than, hey, I just want to buy something and just hold on to it.
well, I think that's most people that, I don't really, as we were talking about, I don't want to understand how email or Instagram works. I just want to use it. It's
Yeah.
it's not in my it shouldn't be in my toolkit to understand how the Instagram algorithm works unless I'm a content creator in order to best make use of my
Sure.
time on the platform. And so I guess there's two things. Number one is it only Bitcoin that I should buy? I'll leave that question aside. But number two is how should I best understand those things to best make use of my time in the crypto industry? Because if I'm a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha and I listen to this podcast and yep, I want to get into crypto, I want to understand all of these things. Where do I go? What do I do? There's so much noise. How do I know I'm not going to run into a Nigerian prince that's going to ask me for 5,000 and send me back 40 million in Bitcoin? It's like, sure, like how do I do research on how to do research?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. I think y- there's many ways to think about it. I think one of the ways that has been really helpful to me is to identify the sources of information and the people that I think are high quality sources of information and are high quality people. And like Vitalik Buterin, who is one of the co-founders of Ethereum, very high quality source of information. You can go read his blog totally for free and understand his insights and his perspective. Right? Uh, there are many um, YouTube channels and news websites that are putting out pretty high quality information, like Masari. super high quality information is coming out of Masari at any given point of time. They have an incredible reputation. Uh, there are many kind of like Telegram channels and Discords. Like for Telegram, the Lobster DAO is it's like anybody can go join the Lobster DAO Telegram. It there's incredibly interesting people having incredibly interesting discussions there all the time. You can kind of see uh, start absorbing information there. Even with Invisible College, like we have a number of courses at Invisible College that people can take that helps to introduce them and get them into that world. There's many ways you can go about it. I think the big question for yourself is like, how good is your bullshit filter?
Mm.
And if your bullshit filter is not good, you know, crypto is not going to be healthy for you because there's a lot of folks that are peddling a lot of nonsense. But honestly, that's true of most of life. If your bullshit filter isn't good, people are going to wreck you in normal life as well, not just in crypto. And so, it's like you have to train to improve your bullshit filter and be able to ascertain, like, am I getting good information or is this completely wildly off base?
Yeah. No, I hear you, and I totally agree with you. It's just, in my book, I put a little thing that said, the average Gen Z doesn't want to spend even 15 minutes to check if what they've consumed on social media is real or true or not, which is just absurd.
Yeah.
And thinking about something like money, such a complex thing, it's hopefully getting easier and easier to understand, but it's like, are we really expecting the average Gen Z to do that much critical thinking about every decision in the crypto industry, or should they just go and buy Bitcoin? I guess the answer is just to go and buy Bitcoin if we're being realistic.
Yeah, that's so.
So,
Yeah, I mean the realistic answer is like if you want crypto exposure, you know, and I really can't, it's like obviously not financial advice,
yeah,
but the uh don't go like take 80% of your net worth and put it into Bitcoin or do something stupid like that. Uh, you know, be responsible. Think about um, a percentage that is if it just went to zero would not devastate you. And for most people, that number is under 5% of their net worth. And so it's like, and if you are more aggressive, maybe that number is a little bit higher, but it's not 20% or 50% or 80%. And even if you did put 50% of your net worth and made this big bet and you were right, it's still a bad move.
mhm,
It's like you got lucky, not because you were thoughtful about how you were handling your portfolio and how you were handling. Uh, it's like we've seen huge swings in Bitcoin, where Bitcoin has gone from 69,000 all the way down to 18,000, or 20,000 all the way down to 3,000. Can you handle that? Can you handle those swings? In my belief system, yes, Bitcoin is going, generally speaking, up and to the right over long periods of time. But are you able to wait? Are you able to basically play the time arbitrage long enough? And if you get to a percentage where the answer is no, then that is too much. You're putting too much money in. That doesn't make sense.
mhm.
These assets are very volatile. So don't expect like you have to have the expectation that you're going to buy this thing and you're going to hold it for a long period of time if you want to make any
Honestly, I think that's the best place to end it. Giving people,
money.
advice, not financial advice.
uh,
Time in the market beats timing the market. I think we can both agree on
Correct.
that. And when we say buy Bitcoin, we don't mean go on YouTube and send your one Bitcoin to get two back. It's the same scam for the Nigerian prince. Please don't do that. But Rockwell, this has been
Oh
a
God.
fantastic conversation. Where can we find you on social media or online?
You can find me on Twitter X at Rockwell Shah. My at Rockwell Shah, basically on everything, LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't use a lot of social media, so you won't see me post a ton, but occasionally stuff will pop up. I'll do an interview or something. But it's always fun to talk to folks that are interested in going deeper than the surface layer, that are interested in going deeper than it's like the 60-second TikTok or something.
Yeah.
And those are the conversations and the context that I enjoy the most.
Well, it shows, your passion and your rigor for these ideas and communicating them in accessible ways. So, once again, thank you so much.